Today, I have the beautiful Nicolette Wijers on the Awaken Feminine podcast, who is joining me from Queensland in Australia. Welcome to the show, Nicolette.
Hi, Kaki. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so excited. Nicolette is a dear girlfriend of mine, and she does some amazing things. And she's also one of the fellow authors in the Awaken Feminine book. So super excited for our conversation today. But before we get started, Nicolette, I'd just like you to give our audience a quick introduction of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Kaki. And thanks so much for the opportunity to be here today. Very excited. And of course, very excited for our book launch, which is coming up really, really soon. So I'm Nicolette. I'm born in the Netherlands. On the other side of the world where I live now is Australia, the Sunshine Coast. But in between, I've traveled the world with my husband, traveled the world backpacking around, but also traveling the world with our various jobs in luxury hotel business. I worked as a general manager in the hotel business, in all different areas, but in all different areas in the world. After that, we kind of came to Australia and made Australia home. So ever since I've been here, I've been got out of the hospitality world, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on with that big journey of mine. And what has happened is that I started my own business, tried several different businesses because I run multi-million-dollar properties and luxury resorts all around the world, but I wanted to just do something what was me and what was myself. But in order to do so, I needed to find what that was, and that was trying out different things. So I went into the network marketing. I did run Airbnb businesses that was kind of similar as hotel businesses. I did a whole bunch of different things till I finally came to what I'm doing now, and that's helping others as well, finding what they truly want to do in life and find their true soul purpose with a whole lot of different modalities. I'm practitioner in breathwork, NLP, timeline, and hypnosis as well. But I combine all my experiences and all different modalities into what I do now.
Amazing. I know you do some amazing work and helping, women or helping people, find their what they want to do as well, because you've had that experience of going, I don't know what I want. But before we dive into more detail about your journey, I wanted to ask you this question first, and that is, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
Awakened feminine is a strong, empowered woman who's not only strong from the outside, but from the deep inside, and know truly who she is, what she stands for, and what her soul journey is. And she's got the clarity and she's got the certainty to be a real queen within herself.
That's such a beautiful definition. And I just loved your posture when you kind of just awakened women is, I just love that. I just saw your changing posture when you were talking about that. So thank you. So Nicolette, let's dive into your journey, because, in your introduction, you talked about being in the hospitality, business, running luxury hotels, resorts, and then going, I'm going to leave and do my own thing, and then really trying to find what it is that you want to do. Can you talk a bit about, I think a lot of people think, okay, well, you travel the world, running multi-million-dollar resorts, blah, blah, blah. That's an amazing job. Why would you want to leave? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, really interesting that you said that as well, because I had the same comments when I was looking for a venue for our wedding. They said, you work in the most amazing place in the world. Why do you want to get married anywhere else? I said, but it's work. Work is so different than the place you live at. And quite often we lived on the properties as well. So besides it was work, it was also our place of residence and where we had our spare time. And we didn't have a lot of spare time. We were working around the clock, and as I say, it's also my husband who's an executive chef, so we worked often together because we worked in remote places. So, it is quite often that you do that together. And yes, it is amazing places all around the world with the blue ocean and the white sandy beaches and you name it what it is. But behind that, there's also a whole lot of hard work what goes in. And nobody dies from working hard. I'm not saying that working hard is not a bad thing if you do it with all the love and the passion you wanted to do it. And I did for many, 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 many years. And that's why I kept doing it, because I loved what I was doing. And that it was 12 hours, 14-hour days, 6-7 days a week. I didn't see my family, didn't see my friends because we lived on the other side. Our colleagues were quite often our friends, because who else can you find on an island or a remote area where you live? So it was quite hard life outside of work, and there was not really life outside of work. But it was also a time that is all fun. It's a different time in your life. It's exciting. It's living that dream life. I was working at the really top end luxury hotels and resorts of the world, and we were award-winning hotels, resorts, celebrity stays, rich and famous came and saw us. So even though I was general manager and assistant general manager at the time, it sounds all beautiful, but it's amazing to meet all those people. But still, I was still missing something, and that was time with friends and family, and definitely with my husband, and doing really truly what I wanted to do besides work. Very rewarding, but all of a sudden I lost a bit of my passion for it, because it was becoming a push. And especially when we moved to Australia, there's just a quite different culture in Australia while working. A lot of things what I had to do for the corporate office, things what I didn't really felt comfortable with and was not really in alignment with how I would like to run a business and do. And it was really business-like, and I'm such a people person, as you can probably hear as well. Love looking after staff and the guests, and that was not always the first priority for some of the owners. So that was hard for me, and then it became such a business, really masculine energy kind of environment. And it came to a point that we were working in Asia. It was an amazing opportunity working in Asia. I worked at different properties, Thailand, Maldives, what I said, blue water, white sandy beaches, you name it. But still, all of a sudden, I got told that I was fired and I was not what they were looking for, because it was such a masculine-driven companies, industry, and that was just not in alignment with me anymore. I've always been that strong woman from the outside, but in the inside I was just crumbling down, because I needed to find more of my feminine side. What is it actually to be a woman? It's not just putting a cute little dress on. And to be honest, I was never wearing a dress. And that was probably one of the things what kind of started changing, that I was like, well, I really need to find who I am and what I stand for, and also set my boundaries. I didn't really set my boundaries because I didn't really know how. Because as I said, from the outside, everybody thought I was this strong general manager doing everything, getting everything done. But inside, I was just exhausted.
How long were you in the industry, hospitality industry for?
Over 25 years.
Over 25 years. And so, how long did you have this feeling of, I want to get out, this isn't what I want, before you actually left?
Good question. I don't even know how long it was. I remember that I was still working, and the business was sold. So I was actually in COO at the time. So I was managing 3 big properties all over Australia, and the management company was sold, and we had to hand it over to everybody. But all those people were not really the experts we were, and handing that over, that really broke my soul, because I put all my passion and my efforts and my time and energy in it. And then all of a sudden it's kind of going down the drain, in my view, of people not really being so passionate as we were. So that was probably it, when I was like, that's not what I want. That's when my soul was taken away out of the business. And then as well, when I was told that I was not the one who they were looking for, while it was my dream job being in Asia. So then I said, enough is enough. I don't know exactly the time frame.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling I had, was like, this is enough. There must be something else. And I was stuck in this bubble of hospitality. that was my life for like almost 25 years. And it was an amazing life and an amazing world. And we've traveled the world and we've been to amazing places and we stayed in amazing properties on our holidays because you had the connections with it. But yeah, that was the time that I was like, nah. It was actually when I was sitting on the couch and my husband came home from work and he said, so what have you done all day? What was on television? I'm like, television? He's like, the TV is on. I'm like, didn't even see that. So I've been sitting on the couch all day, staring at a television, not even realizing that I didn't even watch anything.
Wow.
And he asked me one question. He said, what do you really want? And I said, I just want to be happy.
Mm.
And he said, how do you do that? And how does that work? And I said, I don't know. And that's when I felt really hopeless.
Yeah. At that time, how long did it take you, or, to kind of like find that mojo to even start finding something that will make you happy, to even start looking? Like, what got you off the couch or got you off, staring into space where you didn't even know the TV was on and it'd been on?
It was a little, I don't know, it was on Facebook or social media or somewhere. I don't even know exactly where it was, but it was like a little workshop, like seminar. It was a 3-4 hour long on the Gold Coast, about finding your femininity and your soul journey. And I was like, I have no idea what that is all about. I have no idea what she's talking about, but it's around the corner, so why not just go along for 2-3 hours, listen what she says, and who knows? We'll see. I've always done a lot on my intuition. If I do something, I'm go all in and I go, let's go, and we'll see what happens. I'm not saying that I don't look at the risks and everything, but there was no risks here. So I went that long, and she was talking about all those kind of things. I had no idea what she was talking about. And I was like, why would I sign up for a 5-day retreat about life mastery and finding your soul purpose when I don't even know what that means? And why would I waste my money on that? Anyway, I followed her for a couple of years. It was probably 3-4 years later that I finally signed up with her. And you think, oh, what a procrastination is that? But it was just not the right timing. But in the meantime, I started doing so many other things. But that was the point that I had, so there is something else and I just need to start looking for it. So after that, I went to that workshop. I signed up 3 years later, started the whole path of the goddess and feminine work. But after that workshop, I started to do yoga. And I was like, you need to be flexible to do yoga. I'm not flexible. But yoga is not about flexibility. It's about training the muscle to become flexible and go inwards. And then I realized really it's the inner work and the emotional baggage what I had. And I never thought that I had big, deep trauma, because trauma had such a different meaning to me. And I always said I'm very blessed and I've got a beautiful childhood and loving parents, and I don't have trauma. But of course we all do. And the more you dive in, the more you find, and the more you have to let go. But with that letting go is when you surrender, and that's when you find who you truly are. You're taking all those masks and those labels off, and then you find who you truly are.
Yeah. For someone that's listening to this and going, like what you believed before, like, I don't have trauma, because when people hear the word trauma, most people, they're like, there's nothing in my life that is like super traumatic. No one's died. I haven't like gone through these big experiences that you would see in a movie that is traumatic. Can you talk a bit more about what trauma actually is when you discover, oh, I do have trauma?
Yeah, trauma for me, exactly what you said. It was like it needed to be something big. And I was like, no, I don't have that. But when I start looking, trauma for me is actually everything what has been put on to you by your family, by your mom, your dad, your sisters, your siblings, friends, social media, everything around you. There's expectations been put on you. And that happens from the minute you're born. It actually happens before you're born. I believe it's generations before us, if you do believe that too. But I had to discover that. But yeah, so it's the trauma, and it's sometimes also trauma in your head. It's the beliefs we have that we think that this is good or bad, or this is trauma. What is trauma? So giving it meaning is what it is. So I've never put a lot of meaning on some of those things, like the separation of my parents when I was 13. Unlucky number, they say 13. Well, who says it's unlucky? It can be the best year of your life. So again, it is what other people put onto what is it. But then I dive deeper, and it was actually what I put on then is the trauma. So it's the beliefs and the limited beliefs and the suppressed emotions. Like I often got told, oh, you cry about anything. If I was watching sports and somebody won a gold medal, I was crying. If I was watching a movie, I was crying. And it was just a release of emotions. But to somebody else, quite often it was like, you're crying, it's a sign of weakness. Well, I think it's a sign of strength, because you're actually brave enough and courageous enough to show your emotions. And that's the same when you feel angry and everything else as well. So trauma is just a suppression of emotions, what then stays in your body. And that's why we get sick, and why we got diseases, and why we don't feel well. And sometimes it's not, I've got a headache, but it is just something, the feeling I don't feel well. And why do you not feel well? Sometimes you can't put the finger on it, but I know now 99.9% it is suppressed emotions, and it is the trauma buildup.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. That really helps. And, you explain it in such a easy to understand manner that it's not the events, is actually, how you suppress your emotions and being stored in your body. So when you uncovered that you had all these, like you actually had trauma, what are some of the things that really helped you to release that, so then you can keep moving forward in this journey that you're going through?
I have to tell you that I'm a girl of all or nothing. So it's 500% or nothing. So one thing never works for me. I wanted to try everything under the horizon, which you can find. So kind of you name it, and I've kind of tried it at least, because my mom always said, with some food and stuff, she said, you need to try it first before you tell me you don't like it. So I was like, well, that's what I need to do. I need to just try everything till I find what I really know that is working for me. And because we're all so different, there's not one answer for trauma healing or anything you want in your life. There's different methods, and it's one of the compounding of different modalities what really makes it effective. And what works for me might not work for you, and because you're different than I am. But there's a commonality, of course, in all those modalities. And I started with yoga. As I said, I had no idea what it was all about. I thought it was all being flexible. I was really in my head, and I would have my notebook next to my bed and writing things down just to get it off my chest, not understanding that part is actually journaling, and that is the way you release all those things you learn kind of later on in life. Also, since I've been young, I've always been into sports. I've been really kind of fanatic in a good way in sports. I've had a coach since I was young. Didn't even realize that to probably a couple of years ago that was actually one of my first coaches. And of course, my mom and dad were my coaches as well in so many ways. You learn so much from them. So having a coach and somebody to teach you, somebody who's done it before and, got the results, can show you the shortcuts instead of trialing 500 different things, maybe, do one or two things. But for me, it was yoga, meditation. Then I started doing breath work. Breath work was just incredible. That just changed my life. I remember that I did my practitioner course, and my teacher, the facilitator coach, said to me, life will never be the same. And it truly hasn't been. It's just shifted so much. And just emotional release work, I call it the work, and it's sometimes hard to express what that is, but it's the deep inner healing. And you go through phases, and sometimes you do a lot, sometimes you do a little bit less. But what has helped me is just find that inner peace, empty my head and go into my heart. and come from a heart space. And that's the hardest journey for everybody, because we're so masculine driven, we're so influenced by other people when we're so in our head. We forget how to love and to be loved and receive, and not just give, and not be the people pleaser, which I truly was. And I didn't know how to set my boundaries. So again, all those beautiful concepts of life that you actually do know how to do, but again, it gets clouded because other people come in front of you.
Yeah.
You just need to love yourself first and work on yourself first before you can help others.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think it was really important for that reminder that you gave us that, different things work for different people, because like you say, like what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you, but by you sharing what you've done, other people that might go, oh, I haven't tried that yet, let's give that a try. And I'm the same, I'm very similar to you. I'm like, I want to try everything and see what works. So there's
but even little simple things of like just breathing, and it doesn't need to be a full-on breathwork session, but just a lot of my clients, they don't even know how to breathe. I didn't know how to breathe. I'm just breathing up on my chest because I was so anxious. It's getting that out of that fight and flight mode and that do and constant do mode. And I've so many different modalities because I worked in the wellness resorts and industry as well. So there's all those biohacking things you can do, ice baths and detoxing, water fast or juice, fasting, detoxing. But I think for me, it's sometimes not what else do I need to do, what else do I need to remove first, and that's what I meant with the detoxing. Like I started to eat really healthy, and being married to a chef, I'm very spoiled, but he was not cooking as healthy. It was healthy, but not as healthy as what we eat now. But putting the good food in, I needed to cleanse and clear and get my toxin out of my body. So what else did I do? I removed all the plastic out of our house as much as I can. I changed all to natural, shampoo, conditioners, products I use on my body. There's no chemicals in our house, cleaning chemicals. So sometimes it's removing things rather than putting things in, and detoxing, and it's decluttering of your house and where you live and how much stuff do we need. And it's detoxing of friends and family who no longer serve you and are toxic. So sometimes that's hard to do, and we don't always think about that because that's the not so nice part. But instead of putting all the good things in and do your yoga, meditation, all that stuff, sometimes you need to let go of things first and foremost.
Letting go. So that's something else that feels like we need to get into, because I think for most people, I mean, just listening to your story, there's so much that you were holding on to, and also like being usually when you're in an industry for so long, you're holding on to like that identity, that the labels, and even like with your family and friends, they see you a certain way. So then you think you are that as well. So, and coming from a very masculine, energy that you were in that industry before, letting go is like really, really like kind of like surrendering and going, okay, just show me what needs to be done. How was that process for you to let go of your past, and also let go of expectations, let go of, everything that to actually walk the path forward in your own way?
Very hard.
I thought there was an easy answer.
No, it's not, but nothing is easy in life. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I remember when I went to that seminar, what I was just talking about before, and I finally got 3-4 years later, got to the room where the whole weekend was going to be held. And the reason I didn't want to go was I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to open Pandora's box, and what is coming out? It's all the bad things, and how bad am I, and all my darkness, and oh God, what a terrible person am I, and what an awful daughter and wife, and whatever else, girlfriends. All those kind of things came up. But you need to go through the dark stuff as well to come. I always say it's like the tunnel of turbulence. Kind of enter the darkness, you enter, the tunnel. It gets really turbulent, and you're shaking, and it's your whole life is upside down. And then you come to a point that you surrender, and then it calms down, and then you keep on going to the tunnel of darkness, and at the end there's always light. There's always light. It's always a time in our lives that we need to go through, and by being so resilient and courageous, you always come to the other side. And if you're not, and you stay stuck in it, then you stay in victim mode. And I've done that as well. I thought that was the worst ever, and all these kind of things. But again, it's limited beliefs you put on yourself. The shitty chat in your head that says you're not good enough, and everything else as well. And you just need to remove yourself from people who don't support you and don't help you and don't encourage you to move on and move through and help you. And that's fine. They're not friends. And they might be friends for a certain time, but you just move on. But finding really people who really mean and come from the heart, that they truly want to help you. And I think for me, it was at one of the process we did, the facilitator was standing like right close to my face and asked me one question. I had an empty cup in my hand, and he said, "What do you want to do? What do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, we, as me and my husband, we like to do this, this, and that." And he said, No. And I stood like this. "What do you want to do?" And I couldn't give him an answer, and I burst into tears, and I'm like, holy smoke, I don't even know what I like. And I don't know what brings me joy and happiness. I don't even know who I am, what I want. And that cup is still empty. He said, "How can that be filled?" And I went like, well, I better sit with that and find that out first before I do anything else. Yeah. And that was one of the things as well, what I really found when I started my entrepreneurship and my being an entrepreneur and that whole journey. And you were definitely part of that as well. It's like I got successful quite quickly in a certain extent, but not to the extent I wanted. And I had set out for myself because I put too much pressure on myself. And then all of a sudden things happened and I collapsed. And then I was like, well, why is my business not working? And the reason my business was not working in the first instance, because I was not working. And I was not saying I was not doing the work. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do all the things what I had to do, what they taught me I had to do to be successful. But that didn't work for me because I was doing the hard yard again. And as soon as I let go of all that expectation of what I needed to and just be myself, then the flow comes back in. But you need to work on yourself first and do the deep inner work, I truly believe, before you can succeed in all areas of your life, because knowing who you are ripples through to your whole wheel of life and in all areas of your life, in your business, in your health and fitness, in relationships, in family, you name it. It can't be that one area is working and the other one is completely non-existing. That's very hard to believe for me.
Yeah. It totally resonates with me, because I know for me as well, when I'm not doing the inner work, nothing works around me. It's like, oh, I think it's like a reminder, like, now what's happening here? What do I need to do? And, like you say, with business, it's an ongoing, it's like an extension of yourself. So as you're doing the work, your business also somehow does the work. It just kind of evolves with you. And I'm working with a coach at the moment, and she does, like, she's a business coach, but I mean, we've been clearing so much shit. Like, I was like, yeah, so when are we getting to the business stuff? It's like, we still got more clearing to do, so it's a necessary part of it, that you do the inner work.
Really interesting that you say that, if I can say, because I was looking for a business coach because I needed somebody who could set up all my systems, do all the masculine part of my business is like systems and strategies and structures and everything. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I've done that so much, so often, and let somebody else do that. I don't really enjoy it, so let me do what I'm good in, what I want to do, and then somebody else can do that for me. Delegation was a great word. I always loved it while I had a job. And then that person said to me, I was talking and had like a little interview, and he actually said to me, you don't need a business coach. I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, I need a business coach. He said, well, look at this person. So he gave me actually a video for somebody, another coach. I'm like, but I'm talking to you. And he's like, look at that. So I looked at that other person, the other business coach. I'm like, but that's not what I want. So I went back to the first one.
Yeah.
I said, I want to work with you. And that's when my really deep spiritual healing started, because I worked with him and his wife. And that truly, truly changed me and found my soul journey and found my soul purpose and gave so much clarity. But it was so deep level healing on a physical level, because I was actually pretty sick. I didn't realize how sick I was with so many chronic stress, Epstein-Barr virus, all those kind of things, which by just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, because all the expectations, what is on me, I just pushed through, because I'm that strong woman, I can do that, but I wasn't. So it was not till I did that and integrated all that healing that I can actually open up truly for my business. I always say, do you really need a business coach?
Yeah.
Or do you really need somebody who can emotionally clear and detox you first?
Yeah. What I find is, since we're talking about business, with like business coaches, if they give you a set formula, then run.
It's all the same.
Yeah, because you are not them and they don't know you. And if they're not going to actually take the time to know who you are so that they can then help you find your strategy and your, whatever is aligned with you, then there is no point working with that person, because they're just going to give you the cookie cutter. And it works for some people. I'm not saying it doesn't work. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it doesn't work for everyone. And you'll find most people it doesn't work for is the certain few that it would work for. But yeah.
That's why I didn't go with that other person. That's why I went with the couple, because I knew I had to work on me and do the deep healing work first before I can start moving forward. And that's what quite often people ask me, what do you do? I don't always kind of describe what I do, because it's personalized. It's not kind of cooking kind of system what I have. It's so many different modalities and so many different things, but it depends on what you want as a client, and you tell me what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you to maybe, we've talked about your journey, from being in hospitality, being this very masculine industry, now to, then working with these coaches and actually really having that spiritual journey, awakening within you to know your mission and things like that. Can you give us a kind of like a contrast of how Nicolette worked before and how does Nicolette work now? Like, just in doesn't have to be business, it could be your life, like how you approach life. What's the difference? Like, what's the differences?
I kind of mentioned it before, and I think Nicolette before was coming from her head. Nicolette now is, as well as in the past, but a lot more conscious from the heart now. So what I mean by that is, like in the past, I'm still kind of an all or nothing girl. I don't do things by half, but I do it in a balanced way. So instead of going extreme, like everything is this or masculine or everything is feminine, because all of a sudden I did a lot of feminine work as well, and I did my feminine embodiment practitioner course. So I'm a practitioner of feminine embodiment. But that was all of a sudden a bit too much for me, because I was not exactly all that, but a lot. So what I've really realized is being in your head and just go, 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 do, having list and tick off. And people said to me all the time, God, you're always on the go. I'm like, oh yeah, otherwise life is a bit boring to sit at home. And actually now, as much as I'm still an extrovert, but I can be still really an introvert with both, because I've got that balance. I love being on my own. I love being in my inner world sometimes, but finding that balance. And I think finding the balance in all aspects of my life, if that's spending time with myself, just, going on holidays and weekends away and travel with my husband. We always spend time together. We love that. But there's also moments that I want to just be with all friends. And we physically don't have children, but we love to be around families and friends with children. And then we're happy to be together again the next day. And finding that balance, I think and really truly listen to what I love to do. And of course, it's a compromise in a relationship. You need to compromise. You still have your boundaries, but you compromise and you still do some things that you might not like as much, but you know that your husband really likes to do that. That's give and take in a relationship. But I would never do anything what I really don't want to do. And I think for me, it's listening to my intuition, listening into my body, how it feels, rather than just say yes, yes, yes. So in the past, I've been really a people pleaser. I still want to help people, but with my boundaries and my empathy rather than my sympathy, and just energetically on a distance and coming from the heart. If it feels good, then it is good.
Yeah, it's a lot about awareness of, because when you're talking about intuition and listening to your body, that is awareness, because a lot of people don't listen. Like, we're all intuitive, but we don't have that awareness to listen to our intuition, or that awareness to go, oh, my body's trying to tell me something. Oh, it's just pain. I'm just gonna walk it off, kind of thing. So is bringing that awareness into your being. Can you share a bit about, I know you said at the beginning that you always kind of quite intuitive, you go with your intuition, but obviously now as you've gone on your journey, now it's very much you're aware of it and you embody it. What was something that would help someone who's going, oh, I think I need to listen to my intuition or listen to my body? What's something that they can start off with to help hone that skill?
Very good question. It's actually one of the first things I often do with new clients is open your perspective, open your horizon. We so focused. Sometimes people are not focused at all, but most of the time we just have, the racing horses, and they stand in those gates and they just wait, and it goes 10, 9 and whatever, and at 1 they can go race. And that's how it feels like. We're so with our eyes closed, only seeing what we want to see, and that's what we go, and we just go to that finish line, and everything else I don't really care, and I don't see that. And I always go try to look around you, 360 degrees around you, because there's so much behind you. And you don't need to look to the past and just recall and, relive the past all the time. But there's so many beautiful learnings we can have from our past and the lessons we learn. And it just open up. And use your 5 senses. Really write 3 things down a day, what you're grateful for. And write 3 things down you really noticed with your senses. Did you see anything? Did you see that little flower in the garden? It was not there yesterday, it's here today. Can you smell that flower? Can you hear the birds? Just little things. Just start to actually acknowledge and see those things and hear those things, feel them, taste them, smell them. And be actually little aware of the little subtle things. Yeah. Because as we know, life is not it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a journey without a destination, but enjoy the ride. So enjoy all the little steps, and you need to take a little step. Yeah. And I was always go straight for the big thing, but that doesn't work. You just need to do the work and enjoy the little ride on the way.
Yeah. I'm the same. I know we're quite similar. Like, I want that
Yeah.
now, now, right now.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that, that tip that you gave around building that awareness, because I think most people, when I talk to them, they'll go, oh, start meditating, or, kind of going quiet and going within. But you're talking about actually, let's go outside, and so that you are feeling all the things, because it's true. Like, when I'm thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because if I was just something like, I walked through the shopping center with my daughter the other day. I'm like, oh, this is a new shop. What was there before? And you can't even remember it. Like, that shop probably opened like 2 days ago, and I already can't remember the shop that was there, 2 days or 3 days ago. So it's like, it's those kind of things when you're like, oh, like, when you say, oh, that flower, that wasn't there before, those things, and you don't realize how much you actually aren't aware of. So I love that you go, let's have a look at the awareness outside, because that will help to build then your awareness inside as well.
Yeah, and I think really being, and I'm very guilty of that in the past for sure, and still, I'm not perfect at all, but it's also being present, and there's that amazing book, The Power of Now, and I went like, yeah, whatever, and it's like I didn't understand it. But have you, like what you said, a lot of things are happening unconsciously. So you see the shop, but you're like, oh, I don't remember. But actually bringing the unconscious to the conscious and being aware of that. And people go like, what do you mean by that? So are you actually sitting down at the dining table with your family or with your partner, whoever that might be? And do you sit opposite of each other? Or do you sit on a round table? Or do you actually sit next to each other? We never sit opposite anymore. We sit next to each other. So we don't need that big table opposite of each other. Have you got eye contact with people when you talk? Are you present? Can you see and feel and hear them? Do you really give them 100% attention? Quite often not, because this goes in the way. The phone is in the way and all that stuff. And I'm guilty of that just as much as anybody else. The TV is still on when we're eating. I was never allowed. I had to sit in a gentle way at the dining table, TV off, and we talked. How was the day? What did my dad do at work? And what did my mum do? What did I do at school? Those kind of things. And it's just the little conversations, but it's being actually present with your family, with friends. And I think if you learn that, being aware of how other people feel and what they see and hear, and appreciate that, and not always. I've always got one of those sayings like, you want to be happy, you want to be right, or you want to be happy. So do you actually appreciate the other people's opinion? Do you listen to them? And are you really present with each other?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's so important. We're so distracted nowadays. There's so much distraction. And like, I'm very guilty of like shiny object syndrome, still recovering from that. But yeah, it is. And being present is just so important to, just build that inner awareness, because when you're aware of what's happening around you right in this moment, you feel it in your heart. Yeah.
I think, one of the highest commodities, one of them in my life is time. You never get that back. So you don't want to sit as like a 98-year-old on the deck and thinking, what should I have done in my life? No, you just be blessed with the things you all did and you don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
And time we never get back. And if you actually write down how your ideal day look like, and write that down, and another piece of paper write down what you actually do that day and compare, it can be quite shocking. But it also is eye-opening to where we don't spend time what we love to do.
Yeah.
And we're just doing of things some things we need to do. I agree with that, but try to spend more time with loved ones and everything, because it goes way too quick.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized when I was in hospitality. I was not spending way too much time at work, which I love to do, but there was not enough time I spent with family and friends and other things I wanted to do.
Yeah. I
and
always
you don't
used
get that back.
No, you don't. I always used to say, when I worked in the hospital, one of my colleagues, ex-colleagues now, obviously, work was like, I mean, work was my everything, but work was her everything. Like she had no social life outside of work. And, just remembering speaking to one of the nurses, and we've had a chat to this colleague going, when you die, what do you want on your gravestone?
Yeah.
Right? No one's going to care. Oh, the best pharmacist in the world, whatever. You want to be the loving wife of, the loving mother, loving friend, whatever it is. But, they're the people that actually care, because work's not going to care if you die, really. They'll just replace you in the next hour. So yeah, it's just so important to spend time with your loved ones. And that's such a great tip, to write down what your actual day and your ideal day looks like. Because if you're saying, I want to spend more time with your family, and you look at your actual day and go, oh, I have 0 time with my family, then you're like, okay, what do we need to do about this now?
But for me, it was as well like people ask me, so what is your purpose? And I just said, I want to help people. And they're like, well, what does that look like? I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't matter.
Mm.
And then it was like, so what are your priorities? I'm like, what do you mean by priorities? And what are your values? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But it's actually understanding and confronting yourself to write those answers down and actually ponder over those answers. And they will come. They come because your unconscious mind will get them. But actually listen to that. Not what you think somebody else tells you what you have to do and what to say, and then what does it look like for anybody else, what your answer is. I don't care. It's your answer. It's what your day looks like.
Yeah.
And people are quite often scared to write it down, because they're like, well, I can't, because they feel guilty of this, of this, of this.
Yeah.
And that's what, again, is the trauma, because we've got so much emotions trapped in us.
Yeah.
Guilty, feeling sad, feeling angry. When we write those things down, and you go like, oh,
yeah,
got some things to work on.
Yeah. And I love what you said before. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? That your answers, there's no right answer, is the right answer for you. And the right answer for you will make you happy. The right answer for someone else is not going to make you happy. Yeah. Thank you, Nicolette. I'm just looking at the time. So I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, is there anything that you want our audience to take away with them from this conversation?
It's sometimes hard to let go of your ego and a certain image people have of you, as like being in the hospitality for 25 years and having a certain image or profile, whatever you want to call it all. But does that make you happy, or does that make other people happy? And can you be truly yourself, and can you be really raw and real and really not care about what other people think about you, but just care about the people who care about you and love you, and really start that journey from your head to your heart. Might not always be easy, but as I said, if it's easy, everybody will do it. But if you do it, there's always light at the end of the other side of the tunnel. And it's beautiful to be in a heart space rather than in your head space.
Yeah. Thank you for that beautiful message. And lastly, what is currently setting your soul on fire, Nicolette? What is making you so happy right now?
Seeing the spark I lost in my eyes, see that spark coming back in other people's eyes when I speak to them. If it's a coaching client, if it's a girlfriend, if it's just a friend, if it's a stranger on the street, if I just can help them with one little thing, then that makes me happy.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today, my dear friend.
Thank you, darling.
Such a great conversation. And, I got to know so much more about you as well, and the amazing things that you do. If people want to find out more about you or how they can work with you, where's the best place to find you?
I always like to connect either in person or online in person. So a message, look at my website is @wijers.com. They can contact me on social media as well. So as Nicolette Wijers. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere.
Perfect. I will have all your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.